right, everybody, welcome in. This is the Selection Saturday show. Collegiate Rugby Championship. It is back, baby. We're going to Abby's hometown, Olympian area, Boyd, Maryland. And wow, do we have an excellent show for you tonight. I've got this all-star panel that we have, that you're looking at right here. Abby, what's good?
Just another happy Tuesday here, buzzing to get going with some sevens rugby. We've seen a lot of 15s throughout the year, but sevens, my bread and butter. So stoked to see all the actions. So many men's and women's teams, some incredible collegiate rugby ahead, and just buzzing for it.
All right, the man who knows the best pizza, where to get the best pizza in New Haven, a.k.a. the world, John Brook, coming to us. John, drop some knowledge on these people here.
It is exciting, by the way. It's Upbeats, as we call it in New Haven. If you're ever in town, I got some connections. Happy to take you out for some of the best pizza on the planet. Hey, this is my third CRC that NCR has run, National Collegiate Rugby, and I am just absolutely excited for it. Great teams. Teams are taking their sevens very seriously. They know the tournament a little better. They're playing really great warm-up tournaments. The level is always rising. They're learning how to cope with the interesting format that we'll talk about. Just totally excited for this CRC, and let's get into it.
All right, and the man with all the energy right there, Mr. Great American Rugby, Lance Kavanaugh, coming in here. Lance, you got some spicy stuff for us today, I would assume.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long day for some people. It's gonna be a good day though. We're gonna talk about the best game in the world, and also knockout rounds all day. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Knockout rounds it is, right? The premier rugby division, the men's and the women's. It pays to be a winner. Win and you're in. We got that. So one of the other people that we have that we don't bring up right now, but we're going to toss to him right now and bring Pat Clifton on. He is the tournament director. He is the man that is putting this all together, the brains behind the operation. He's also been around the CRC for a very long time, back when it was with USA Sevens before NCR purchased it and acquired the rights to the CRC. So there is no better man to give us a lowdown on the CRCs, where it came from, where it's going, and what we should be expecting this year at the CRCs. Pat.
The Collegiate Rugby Championship, the CRC, the big dance, the granddaddy of them all. This is the tournament that started college sevens as we know it. Let me take you back to 2009. College sevens, not really a thing. It's all about 15s. And then the IOC puts rugby in sevens back in the Olympics. The next year, 2010, the CRC is born. And then for the next 14 years, all it does is create a giant stage and spotlight for players and coaches and programs to build legacies and to springboard into national team appointments and professional rugby. People like Danny Barrett and Madison Hughes and Cody Melfi springboarding and taking it into a next level of their career. And women like Maya Bitzer and Sam Sullivan and Rochelle Stevens doing the exact same thing, going to the Olympics and going on to play professionally overseas and on the Sevens World Series and in World Cups. This is the breeding ground for Sevens national team players. And what does the CRC look like now? Well, it's still the same thing. Here, going into its 13th ever tournament, it is deeper than ever before, more qualified and meritocratic than ever before. 2/3 of the teams, of the 122 teams coming to DC, qualified to be there. That has never before been done at the CRC, and it is a massive undertaking, and it has produced a phenomenal result so far, and we're still producing Eagles. Last year, Indiana University, 2 Hoosiers were picked to the Eagles off the back of the CRC, and Noah Brown and Will Chevalier. So we're expecting to see more of that this year. The CRC's future is bright. We are back in the East Coast. We are playing for the first time ever in the school window. So fraternity brothers, sorority sisters, professors, mom and dad, cousins, and classmates can all actually come. So I'm very excited for the CRC. It's a very exciting time. We're happy to be in DC, happy to be in Maryland. We can't wait to see you there. The CRC, the granddaddy of them all, folks. Back to you.
Thanks, Pat, for dropping that on us. Now, Lance, you were the one talking about the format, right? Like, this format is not like typical sevens rugby tournaments, what you see, what's going on. Tell us what gets it excited about you, what gets you excited about this format, and then also, what do you expect?
I expect every game to go down to the blistering end. It's win or stay in, show up or go home. It's the most beautiful competition ever because every bounce of the ball, every referee's whistle, every moment of the game matters. And if you fail, that's your season.
And that's your season. And now the only person probably on this panel that has actually played knockout rugby at the highest level, that's going to be Abby Gustavus right there, the Olympian. Abby, for the Rugby World Cup, you played in one of these before. When they introduced the knockout format, people were like, we don't like it. We're used to pool play. But tell us your experience in actually playing in a Rugby World Cup Sevens in San Francisco, close to where you're at right now as well too, right? But what is that format knockout like? And as a team, how do you prepare? How does it make it different than pool play?
I've never felt so sick to my stomach before stepping onto the field in the Sevens World Cup in San Francisco. It was unreal. The nerves, the jitters, everything matters, just like Lance just mentioned. You drop a pass, it's their scrum. If they score off that, is that your game over? It's only 14 minutes. You run out of time. Whoever can make the least amount of mistakes and flush those mistakes early. But it's so important to be on the same page as your teammates and honestly just be in the present moment because it's going to go by in a flash. So you might as well enjoy it.
Right, yeah, sevens, it comes and goes, and I mean, you make one mistake and you could be done. I mean, this is ripe for upsets, right? That's what makes this tournament format so great. Teams that you think could come in here, Lindenwood, two-time champion, the men were firing on all cylinders, and they got knocked out in the semis last year, and we have a new champion for the CRCs. Look to repeat again this year, and man, that was the final. John, last words on this format and what it did last year, and what gets you excited about it?
This format is unbelievable. As Abby said, I can only imagine those nerves that are there. It's just unbelievable. When you're talking about Kutztown came out last year and played a really physical game of sevens. And the whole 3 days was looking at it saying, can they keep this up? Can they keep this up? Can they keep this up? But they figured it out and they did. They played safe, a little bit safe rugby, but they just powered their way through all these teams and just believed that they could win, which is a lot of it. So, I think this format is super exciting. It does get those nerves up for all the teams. But really, whoever can adapt to it, and I think teams are thinking about that now, so it should make this an interesting tournament.
All right, so we're going ahead. We're talking about what this year is. You alluded a little bit to it about last year. Let's just briefly talk about some of the exciting games. And Abby, what was, one of the key takeaways from last year and one of the best matches that you saw last year in the CRCs?
Oh, anytime Lindenwood steps onto the pitch is just so exciting for the women. For me, watching those girls out there, they truly were the whole package, and watching them lift that trophy, they are a complete package. So I think it'll be a little bit of a bummer to miss out this year. But for the men, Kutztown, I couldn't. My Maryland team didn't do so well last year, so I won't say that was the game of the tournament. But again, Kutztown, as John just alluded to, were such a strong team, and it'll be exciting to see if they can back it up.
All right, and then Lance, what you got for us? I know you got something brewing in over there. You're awful quiet right now, man. What's coming?
Look, man, we gonna get to talk about these. I'm waiting to talk about these games. These matchups are everything. This 3 days is gonna be amazing. I'm ready to see some violent rugby. I'm ready to see some tactical rugby. I am ready to see the CRCs at its best, where every moment counts. There's nothing better.
All right, every moment is going to count as we get into it. One of the other things that we got to touch on, right? We're talking about a bracket challenge here, right? We're talking about, winner, win it all. Everybody wins it, right? We just got done with May Madness or March Madness. It was May Madness last year. We're now in April. Don't have the May Madness moniker, but we still have the bracket challenge. And this bracket last year, nobody got a right bracket. I mean, nobody's got the right bracket yet in basketball. I mean, it's hard. It's only 32 teams here, but you should be trying. If you think you know college rugby, if you think you know what you're talking about, you need to go to the NCR website, fill out your bracket, pick your winners, pick the upsets. Got the bracket bus coming on later for you, so that way, you guys maybe get some inside tips from Broker and Brianna. But it's going to be exciting. I mean, bracket challenge. That's what this is all about. Follow along. 3 days of action for the men, 2 days of action for the women. All get started on Friday the 28th. So make sure you get your brackets in by Thursday. That way, you can solidify and you can talk. You can talk junk. You can tell Lance he was wrong, right? Everybody likes to do that. Tell Lance he's wrong. He'll eat it. You know what I mean? He tells everybody else his opinion. Give your opinion and put Lance in his place. That's what we want, right, Lance?
It's not going to happen. I stand on it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it's not going to happen. I'm going to have the best bracket of everyone. I'm calling now. And if I'm wrong, we'll try again next year.
Yeah. Try again next year. All right. So on that note, we got this party started here. We're going to kick it over. When we come back, commercial break, we're going to be joining in. We're going to be going over the women's bracket. We're going to start off in the East, and then we're going to go to the West, something Abby might know a little bit something about. And then we're going to talk about our thoughts, and we're going to make some predictions. They may be wrong, they may be right, but who cares? Whatever, man. That's the fun of this, right? Stay tuned. We're coming back. Selection Saturday, CRC on the way.
In our game, we play with our hearts. We don't play with sticks, bats, or gloves. We don't wear shoulder pads or helmets. We keep playing when it hurts. And we leave everything on the field. What we wear must be built for our game.
And welcome back to Selection Saturday here. We have our panel. You're seeing 3 of the great experts right here, but we have another little smarty pants, and she is just getting her MBA right now from Harvard. No big deal. And not only is she smart, but she can whip the ball around on a pitch. She can step here. She can stiff arm. And she's also can be found on the sidelines and in the booth for Major League Rugby, so she is no slouch whatsoever. Let's go ahead. Let's bring in Brianna Kim to give us the lowdown on the Women's East Division.
What's up, guys? Thanks so much for having me. Look, some overall thoughts on the Eastern region here. There's a wide range of skill levels, but I think overall it's going to follow chalk pretty closely. Now, look, 4 of these 8 teams in this bracket, Penn State, Virginia Tech, University of Iowa, and Southern Nazarene University, all competed in the Premier Division last year, so they've got that advantage of knowing what it feels like to play in the top stage. But let's talk about each of the matchups. First, we've got number 1 Army versus number 8 Aquinas College. Army is a very strong, successful program in both 15s and 7s. They didn't let a single point on the board at AIC 7s, but then they were humbled the following week at Tropical 7s, where they played against some of the best teams in the nation. They played some very close matches. They ultimately beat Lindenwood Black in the plate final, but that adversity is going to be really what is the key differentiator for them to make it to the final. They're led by All Naira and M.A. Sorensen Award finalists Kaylee Cargile and Julia Rakina, so look out for them. Look, Aquinas, they've got a tough challenge in this first round. Coming out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, it's a brand new varsity program, head coached by former USA Eagle Laura Miller. They most recently played at the Warren Wilson Classic, where they placed 3rd. They lost to Virginia Tech in that tournament 43-0. But look, they're looking to build on their historic year. So look out for players like Liberty Cawthorn, McKenna Norman, Genesis Dotson, and Asil Jadala. They're all young players, but they've got huge potential, a few of whom are already getting looks from national and regional teams. Now let's go to the bottom of the bracket here. Number 2, Penn State versus number 7, Montana State. Again, Penn State, very storied program. They finished in 3rd at this tournament last year, 34-7 over Grand Canyon University. They've had a busy 7 season. They played at Life 7s, Princeton 7s. They just finished playing at Legacy 7s, hosted by Navy over the last weekend. They didn't reach the final, but they lost a very close match versus the Naval Academy in qualifying. Now look, some players to watch. Camille White, M.A. Sorensen Award nominee. She's a Westminster, Maryland product, Atlantis High School product. She's a senior. She's looking to really lead the team with her stride. Marin McSorley, Jamie Strom, a couple of other players to look out for. Now on Montana State, they similarly have had a busy sevens season. They've played 3 sevens tournaments with one more to prep for this weekend before the national tournament. Players to watch: Sydney Strisky, Zanji Stewart, and Liz Buckner, all looking to make some boom runs, looking to make that big play and try to upset Penn State. Now we go to the third matchup. Number 3, Virginia Tech versus number 6, Michigan State. Virginia Tech lost in the champion plate final last year versus University of Northern Iowa. So they finished the tournament 6th overall. You know that they are looking to improve on their performance this year. They've had a pretty successful season too. They won both Warren Wilson sevens and Wolverine sevens. Look out for players Captain Kara Hendren, Chandler Watford, and Sydney Gaskin. These 3 are going to lead the team to a bigger run this year and really challenge these varsity programs also in this tournament. Now, Michigan State is an interesting one. I think they should have been seated higher in this bracket, to be honest. I think of all the first round games, this one is going to be the closest game here. Michigan State beat number 3 West seed Michigan 22-5 at Wolverine Sevens earlier this month. So look out for this game to be a super competitive one. And of course, last but not least, number 4 Iowa versus number 5 Southern Nazarene. Iowa finished number 8 last year, looking to improve on last year's finish. Of course, 2 NCR All-Americans in Erica Koulibaly, arguably one of the best collegiate players in the country right now, and Aaliyah Springer. They won Trainwreck Sevens, the Big Ten qualifier, and they finally lost in the semifinals at Wolverine Sevens. Look out for them to be strong. Southern Nazarene, they struggled last year, struggling to advance out of the Challenge Bowl semifinals, but look for their physicality to really compete against number 4 Iowa. And look, that is the roundup for this region. I think if you're looking for me to pick the best team in the East, it's got to be following chalk. Number 1, Army. I mentioned this earlier, but adversity is really the key differentiator for this team. They have played some of the top teams in the country, Life, Lindenwood, Harvard, among others this season. So they've already experienced what it's like to really get to the W that they need in each game. If you're looking for an upset alert, I touched on this earlier. If you're looking for an upset in the first round, it'll be tough for them, but I would pick Michigan State over Virginia Tech to really bust this region. But more realistically, I think Virginia Tech has a strong chance of beating number 2 Penn State out for a spot in this semifinal. Look, I think the Eastern Regional champion is going to be Army. It'll be a very interesting showdown to see who they face in the West. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Brianna. As always, an absolute pleasure. We got more from Brianna coming back after this because she's going to be giving us our bracket busters. But Abby, big shoes to fill coming in on that. Let's go ahead. Let's move on over to the West Coast. Some may say that's the best coast, but East Coast ride or die over here, whatever. But let's go with the West Coast. We got some interesting stuff going on over there, and you got some great information to fill us on as well.
Born and bred on the East Coast, but maybe relocated to the West Coast and been there since for a second. So, but to the West here for the women, and just looking at the top, you have Brown there. You cannot overlook them. Roz Chow has taken over this program. She is the Kathy Flores women's rugby head coach, and as a tribute to Kathy Flores, who's done so much for the sport of rugby and for the women's game in general. Such an amazing title, and Roz Chow has some huge shoes to fill, but she has Kit Ruiz and Bridget Keeley, who are 2 Eagles. Enough about the staff. The team is incredible as well, and they are definitely going to be the favorites going up against Kutztown. They've earned that number 1 seed in the West. And looking around, they do have Makdia Parker. They also have Kathy and Lynch, who are great try scorers. Kutztown were in the tournament last year. They finished 6th, not their best performance, but they beat Navy earlier this year. So if they come out strong, they'll have a chance. But for me, Brown's going into that semifinal spot pretty easily. Going down, Northern Iowa versus Indiana. Indiana, first time in the CRC, so super stoked for them to get their shot. They've been working really hard for 6 years to get to this tournament. UNI here last year, strong performance, but lost a couple key players. They should have a little more experience than Indiana, so looking to see them go on to compete against Brown. And then Michigan, do not sleep on them. Ember Larson, the girl, is an incredible rugby player. She has the wheels, she has the physicality, and she leads this team from the front. She's also up for M.A. Sorensen nominee, which there is a slew of those nominees in this tournament. So keep your eyes peeled. Iowa State, pretty new. It's going to be a huge task to go up against Michigan. They did beat University of Northern Iowa twice just last weekend. So they're a little more experienced, but again, Michigan for me going through. And then at the bottom, you have Navy versus Texas A&M. Texas A&M, definitely a big task ahead against Navy. Murph coaching them. Navy have Marissa Meyer. She, again, really strong center for them in the 15-side game, but transitions so well to sevens, has that ability to see the space, set her teammates up, but also finish. And we've seen them do pretty well, but they're hit or miss. They're not super consistent. So although the West is going to be competitive, there is a lot up for grabs. And at the end of the day, this knockout rugby, it's anyone's game. So it's going to be super exciting, and I'm buzzing for it.
Yeah, this women's division is absolutely exciting and electric. We heard Brianna talking about the East. One of the teams that I'm looking at big time and I want to see it come out is this Iowa team. I mean, they're pretty good. They've got a lot of beastly players that last year were just tearing it up. They're going to be pretty good. Looking like that may be an Iowa-Army matchup there in the second round. That's going to be good. This Army team is obviously, they're stacked. They know how to play sevens. Probably got some Steve Lewis influence in up there as well too. The sevens guru helping, interjecting in one of the 18 million different jobs he has, as well as a board member of NCR, Rooney GM. What else? Probably the most interesting man in rugby, like hands down, without a doubt. Have the resume.
He's up there.
I did those 3 days with West Point earlier this season, so I'm sure if they do well, then it would probably just be the wisdom I imparted on them after a quick 48 hours hanging out with them. But
all right, so if we see somebody going up and flying and getting those high balls, right? Like Abby was like ripping those out for Scion this past summer when we were in St. Louis camping on the side of a rugby pitch, right, Lance? I mean, if we see somebody doing that, we know that that's the Abby influence right there. But the only thing is you can't teach height.
No, you can't. But maybe a little
can't always
in practice. No. It all helps.
Yeah. Hey, John, you've had a lot of experience with Brown this year, right? We've done a lot of their productions, all their home games.
Yep.
So you've got a lot of insight into that. Drop some knowledge on this Brown team that's coming in as number one ranked team coming out of the West.
Sure. Abby mentioned Makdia Parker. She's going to be a huge part of this team, but they have players across their smart team. They really want to continue to move their program forward, and Raz Chow is just the right person for that job. And this is an opportunity for Brown to really get on that national stage and show not only where they are, but where they're headed, right, as a program. So I think this is a fantastic opportunity for them. If Akila Kathy is out running, there are a number of great players in this team. They have some power, they have some pace. They played some really, really good teams in other competitions. So I think they're going to bring that to the CRCs, and it's going to be a good effect for them. They're really kind of my top seed right now in this women's division.
All right, we're all over here, and I'm sure that Kate Daly, if she's watching this, she's going to be like, nobody said anything about Penn State yet, right? Like, Penn State, perennial women's powerhouse. Like, that program is just always cooking. Kate Daly, I mean, phenomenal coach, been around to set up the, an Eagle, like, coach for years, really good. Are we sleeping on Penn State?
I don't know if we're sleeping on them. You can't sleep on them, but my girl Camille White is on their team, who I got to play with over the summer. She came down and played with Scion, and she really stood out last year in the CRCs, and they are missing a couple key players, a few seniors that graduated last year. So looking for someone like Camille White to really lead them and pick them up, and honestly, they can definitely make it to a semifinal against an Army or an Iowa, and it could be anyone's game.
Lance.
Yeah, they certainly have the ability to come on.
Yeah, Lance, you were shaking your head. We were saying you were sleeping. You got a comment for that?
I just took a little nap on Penn State. That's no big deal, you know. I was a little tired. You know, it's been a long day. I've been watching rugby, studying these teams, and if it's not Army, who else? What are we doing? If it's not Army, who else? You said Army and Iowa. I'm cool with that. But if it's not Army, who else? I mean, you're being nice with the Iowa. I believe you're being nice. It's Army or nothing, right? It's West Point or no point. Come on.
I think.
Oh, I like
If
that.
we're going to talk about academies, I think just moving into the NIRA program as a varsity program. Murph McCarthy been there a long time, transitioning the team, into the varsity realm right now. So another team, it's an opportunity for them to make a big statement in this Navy team. So I think, don't sleep on Penn State, don't sleep on Navy. Absolutely.
And I think what really separates Navy and West Point is their walk-ons. Because you have these club level teams that are all walk-ons and club level, super social, everyone's welcome. But the tier of athletes that come onto the Navy team, that come onto the West Point, they are truly a level above, right? You have to hit physical requirements to even get into that school. But then if you can teach them how to toss a rugby ball around and tackle someone, and that's a game changer for me.
Absolutely game changer. Just all of that for them to lose to Michigan in the next game for Navy. I'm calling whatever. Like, don't get mad at me. I'm just saying. And I don't like Michigan. Don't get it twisted. But I call it like I see it.
No, Michigan, my girl Elena Olsen, alumni for them. So I gotta cheer them on. But they're a good team too. We already spoke of them briefly, but that's going to be a great matchup.
I mean, I'm going to call it right now. If Michigan makes it to the semifinals, Ember Larson, player of the tournament. No, I'll call it right now.
Boom.
I'll put money on that. Again, when you see her open up that stride and just hit full pace, it is like I literally had to slow it down and be like, wait. Is there something wrong with the footage? Is this like in fast motion? Like, what is this? It's like, no, this is just Ember Larson. Like, I mean, get in touch with her, get her on a sevens pitch somewhere, Premier Sevens, somewhere. Get her playing some rugby. I can't wait to see it. I don't want to speak out if she's a junior or senior, but I know that she was playing this past December and lit it up for the Michigan Wolverines in Houston down the championship. So that's going to be exciting. And then again, like we were saying, the Northern Iowa, always a pretty good team. They still have like a lot of good experience that has been here at the bigger stage, and we'll look to see where they go and what they do from that. So I think we talked about the players to watch. We hit that, right? Talked about a couple of players. We got in there. Does anybody have any saved rounds on this women's division before we cut out to commercial? All right. Doesn't look like we have any saved rounds there. All right. On that note, all right. So stick around. We will be back. That is your women's premier bracket. When we come back on the other side of the break, we are going into the men's. It's 32 teams, 4 regions to go over, and we're going to get a little bit spicy with this one. I could already tell Lance is just chomping up the bit. He's been too quiet so far. Going to come out guns a-blazing on this one. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. This is Selection Saturday, National Collegiate Rugby CRC Sevens, coming to you live here on the Rugby Network and on YouTube. All right, and we are back, and we are all about the men right now. We took care of the women, got a lot of great matches that we're looking forward to coming out of that, but now let's turn our attention to this 32-team bracket. We have the men's, we have an East, we have a West, we have a South, and we have a Midwest division this year coming to the brackets. A lot of spicy stuff, exciting matchups that are coming along this bracket. A couple of extra games with 32 teams in there, so it's a little bit longer of a road to get to a championship than it is for the women, but I tell you, it's going to be no shortage of action, and all the action kicking off in the East. Let's just get it started right now with John Broker, Mr. New Haven Pizza himself out there on the East Coast. John, break us down in the East Division.
You keep pumping up the pizza. Glad you get a little, money from our tourism bureau. Yeah, it's an East bracket. This is a great bracket going right here. There are some interesting matchups to have. So let's start right at the top there with Wheeling versus Utah Valley. Wheeling, they were 9th 2 years ago. They were 6th last year, and Mike Geibel says they're focused on number 1 for this year. They played 5 sevens tournaments, and they've won all of them against good CRC teams leading up to this. And that's without Aaron Juma and Chief Chifumbu. Those two are playing in Zimbabwe, taking classes online, and they're back for this tournament. So they've increased some depth. They brought some players in. You have Simo Hadar, Joseph I, Josh Blankenship to add to that, and Juma and Chifumbu coming back. They're ranked number 1, absolutely deserve it. One's going to go Wheeling's way. Next matchup, Fairfield University, the Stags versus Thomas More, the Saints. This is a replay of a playoff from the NCR 15s, and that was won big numbers by Thomas More. So Fairfield's going to be coming in with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. They really won't have a point to prove here. They have a good team. They have a building program due Fairfield. This is 7s, not 15s. They're not traveling to Thomas More's home stadium. They're playing in neutral ground. So this should be a great team, great Fairfield team making good strides. Nick Lapanese, Chris Niunta, Patrick Burke, the field. All big players in their 7s team. Patrick Burke's father actually is the coach of Iona, interestingly enough. But, they're playing with a point to prove. It should be really good. Thomas More, good 15 season, continue to recruit. They have a lot of support from the school. They've lost some senior leaders, so they're going to have to adjust to it. They have some young guns to keep an eye on. Guys like Chepo Mosolani is unbelievably fast. He may be the fastest man at this tournament. Manuel Zubiri, another freshman. They're great players to this team, but they have to find that rhythm and adjust to some of that senior leadership that has moved on. So it's going to be an interesting matchup there. Mount St. Mary's versus Michigan. Mount St. Mary's has played a lot of 15s even this spring, not as much 7s. So they have to get into that 7s mindset in a couple of weeks. They have Jude Fangmeyer. They have a freshman from France named Bastien Brunello. Keep an eye on those guys. They're going to be great players to watch. Great team. But like I said, they've been playing a lot of 15s. They're going to have to adjust here pretty quickly. And they're playing Michigan, who has played a lot of 7s. The Pitt Dome 7s. They came in first in the Chicago Hound 7s. Fighting Irish 7s. Big Ten 7s. Good setup, good coaching. Shane Lucknane, Devon Oktobe, Nathan Feldman, some good players across the team here. So this is, a team that's played a lot of 7s versus a team that's played a little more 15s this spring. So that should be an interesting matchup as well. Adrian versus Virginia Tech. Adrian, exciting team, Polynesian influence, great coaching in Benny Mattaleona. They had their ups and downs in 7s this season, but they play on emotions and good vibes. If they can bring that, they're going to have a really good tournament. And they have some players that are just absolute game breakers. Junior Sailo, Inoki Takao, his father Tomasi was a U.S. Eagle, and Patello Vatuve is one of the most exciting players you are going to see at this tournament. Fantastic for Adrian. Virginia Tech, gotta love them. Player coach team. Probably one of the only ones in this tournament. Virginia Tech have done great as a player coach team. Fantastic. Just stepping up wherever they have to. They beat Mount St. Mary's in one game. That's just one game, mind you. But, they're putting some good 7s together. Hunter Dasani, their captain, president, coach. Will Ritchie, a couple other players. Virginia Tech, a very good team. But, Adrian should get the better of that one. That's a bit of the East bracket. I got to say Wheeling's coming out of this bracket on top, to be perfectly honest, with all the firepower they have. But that East is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that East is going to be a lot of fun. And before the Davenport man gets shot in at Michigan, hold your horses, Lance. We'll get that in, right? We're going to do it. But before we do that, let's go ahead, hop that red eye over to the West, and let's get Abby's lowdown on what's going on and what we should expect from these teams coming out of the West.
Just really glad I could solidify myself as a West Coast gal for the whole rugby world. Everyone's like, she's turning her back on the East Coast. East Coast. East Coast? Oh,
she said it. She said it. She said it. Oh, Maryland, take note. Take note.
The West, John already spoke to the excitement on the East, but look at that first matchup. Indiana, we saw 2 of their players debut for the men's Eagles. That is such an incredible feat. Noah Brown, Will Chevalier. It's incredible enough as an adult that I took until age 25 to debut on the series, let alone for a collegiate athlete. And those 2 will look to lead the charge. And they also have Peyton Wall and brother Parker Wall, but the first up for the Rudy Schultz Award. And again, a slew of those nominees across this bracket. Tennessee, definitely the underdogs, ranked last in this West bracket. And they have Josh Shetler, who's a All-American, and they'll definitely need him to lead the charge if they hope to have a shot at Indiana. But for me, Indiana's cruising through these first two matches. And then looking down, Marion and Dartmouth actually hosting the Ivies this weekend prior to the Collegiate Rugby Championship, and that's going to be a great build-up for them. So they'll get that game time with other teams like Brown, who are also in this bracket. So building into this tournament, it's a great opportunity to build cohesion. And they have Kyle Sumption, their head coach, newer to the team, and he's still building it up. They've been a powerhouse for years and years, right? You have Alex Magleby, he's always been part of the program. You have two-time Olympian Madison Hughes, who came from there, as well as a ton of star-studded rosters. Marion, a newer program, just in 2019, I believe, became full-time, hit a couple years throughout the pandemic, but they've really established themselves throughout the fall season and had a lot of great wins in 15s, but will that inexperience show in a tournament like this where knockout rugby is happening? Cruising down to the bottom half of the bracket, Air Force, a little inconsistent for me. They are one of those military academies, so they have that baseline fitness and athleticism. And they have Jackson Mitchell, who's one of their leaders on and off the field. Eric Will's a massive ball carrier for them. And then against Queens matching up, they've definitely shown some ill discipline in the past, but they've had a lot of success as well. They just went up to the Mary Washington Sevens tournament, finished 4th, which to me shows they're able to start these tournaments well, but they don't have that ability to finish. And that is such a problem in sevens. This is a 3-day tournament. That experience goes a long way, and you have to have that ability to go again and again, right? You win, you're in, you get to competing. And then just down there at the bottom, Brown versus Navy. Really only time will tell after this semifinal matchup of Navy versus Lindenwood for that D1A Elite Playoff game hosted by Navy. So they're still in the running for that 15s national championship. You best believe they're going to put every foot forward to be in that final. So depending on how that game goes will determine which Navy team we're seeing, as that 15s final is going to be after this weekend of sevens. And Brown, well deserving of that second seed. They have great players across the 7. They have depth, and they've been building nicely. They'll get that opportunity at Ivy Sevens. So for me, most likely Brown, but I hope a strong Navy team shows up. However, I'm going to back Indiana to move through this bracket up on the West.
Yeah, I don't think many people are going to argue with that, with Indiana and the strength of that, especially if you're following the Indiana Instagram and you've seen that picture of those guys working out in the gym. It's like, ooh, I mean, I don't want to be tackling those guys right there. Let me tell you, that's going to be pretty rough. Those guys are also, that experience is going to be great. The military guy in me would love to see the Shea Cup, Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Shea Cup, Air Force versus Navy going on into the second round, but we're probably going to have to see that in the lower tier bracket if we're being realistic here. That Brown team's probably going to get through on round 1, I would imagine, and Queens probably going to be a little bit too much for Air Force, but who knows, right? Academy teams, you never know. We got these academy teams in there. Now Lance, what you got for us? I mean, you go heading down to your part of the country, right? You got some of that's your area. So go ahead and fill us in here on the South region and what you expect to be seeing.
You want me to talk about the Dirty South? I'll talk about the Dirty South. First of all, Notre Dame College playing 4 sevens tournaments this year. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Have yet to win one. 4-1, 4-1, 3-1, 4-1. Every time they get to the final, seem to drop it. Can they pick it up when it really matters the most? Their captain, Hugh Johnson, handling business for them. They have a U20s player, Asher Hammond. Obviously, they have the talent, but ECU has beaten one of the best teams and possibly the number 2 overall seed in the entire tournament in Wellington in the Mooseman final, 27-22. Can they strike lightning again? I believe they could, but that's not my prediction. Don't do that. Number 4 is Siena, moving into D1, handling business as they go against Belmont Abbey. Who knows what they can do, but they have one All-American, Isaac Frost. With a name like that, you're looking for a heavyweight fight night. I'm just calling it now. Belmont Abbey, SRC Sevens champion, beat Eastern Carolina 3 times this year. And they have a young man from down here, West Palm Beach, Karan Young. Look out for him. He's a stepper. Number 3, Acquaintance versus Iona. Acquaintance is led by Hohaya Lance. I just wanted to say his last name first so I can say Lance again. Coach Lance, known to put good teams together. Took a Davenport team to Sevens Nationals. They finished 3rd in 2019. He obviously can put a Sevens program together. He might not be well known here, but I'm telling you, he couldn't walk the streets of Australia and New Zealand without someone noticing him, all right? This Acquaintance team has beaten the number 3 seed, Notre Dame, number 3 seed from the Midwest, Notre Dame, the number 5 seed from the West, Marion. They might have dropped a few games against some of these other teams, but I think this is their time to shine. And they're playing the number 6 Iona team, who has a few players on their team that need to get some respect on their name. One of which has an older brother that plays and won a championship with the Ironworkers. I'm sorry, name change. Brendan Buckley, young man is handling business like his older brother is. And I don't know, we might just see an Iona team get upset early on. Number 2 seed versus number 7, Mary Washington versus James Madison, Mary Washington, the number 2 seed, drew against the number 1 overall seed, Kutztown. Am I not mistaken? What does that mean? That means that anybody can get it. They got problems for everybody and anybody. And they also beat up on the number 7 seed in the East, Virginia Tech, 38-0. So we're talking about potentially, I'm sorry, James Madison. I'm apologizing to you, but it's all about Mary Williams for that matchup. Sue me. Mary Washington is going to handle business. I'm calling that out now. I'm just going to get that out the way. But this South bracket, in my opinion and belief, might just produce the champion of the entire tournament. My call. Just saying.
Any rebuttals to that?
The man's got some statements right there. There's some good teams there. One of those, possible bracket busters is that Iona Aquinas game right there. Iona, lost a couple players, but they got a freshman, Jack Husher, who's played every game in 15s and 7s that they're really big on. A number of other players there. That could be an upset. I think Mary Washington is a good team. James Madison's been a lot of fun. I'm not sure they're going to get by him. But, I love Lance's determination there, and then that is going to be a great bracket.
All right. Well, we're going to chop it up, John. We got more to talk about after this, right? We talked about this beforehand. You're going into it, but I set you up there for you. I asked for it, so that was my fault for getting off the rundown there, okay? So sticking with the rundown, and now we got to head to Mr. Midwest himself, Pat Clifton. Nobody knows that area better. Nobody knows the rugby landscape to the Midwest like this man, and pretty much like the American landscape. He is the tournament director here. He is the man with the plan that is putting this on. Let's go ahead. Let's bring in Pat Clifton so he can give us the lowdown on the Midwest and who is going to come out of there on top.
Let's take a look in the Midwest region. A lot of storylines here, all right? Let's start with number 1 Kutztown and number 8 Nazareth. We've got the Rugby East against the Liberty Conference. 2 rival conferences here, same geographic footprint. Of course, the defending champion Kutztown Golden Bears. They have been hot this entire spring. They've had a few falters, losing to Brown here, losing to Notre Dame College there, but the Kutztown Bears notorious for doing this. They like to create a lot of competition in their team throughout the spring, split their sides pretty evenly, and then meld it together towards the end. And Kutztown has looked good of late. Expect them to be back in a title run. A lot of guys, very important for them back. Nazareth, it's been a tumultuous season for them. Ty Daniels, their former coach, let go in the middle of the season. Dana Schneider stepping up, and the Golden Flyers have had a lot of success. They've played a lot of 7s. Kyrie Poole is a fantastic player for them. So upset alert for the Kutztown Golden Bears. It's not going to be easy for you against the Golden Flyers. Golden Bears, Golden Flyers, 1 versus 8. That's a juicy matchup. And then, of course, I'm going to look down a couple of notches to Notre Dame versus Southern Cal. USC, Notre Dame. In football, they play for the Jewel Shillelagh. In rugby, they're playing for a right to move on to the Sweet 16. That's going to be an exciting matchup. The Trojans making their CRC debut. The Fighting Irish looking good coming into this, finishing 3rd in the Big Ten. Had some really strong performances this spring. And then number 2, St. Bonaventure against number 7, Rio Grande. I'm telling you right now, it is upset alert for the Bonnies. Very good season for them. They qualified out of the New England Free Jacks tournament, finishing second to Indiana up there in a very impressive performance. But this Rio Grande team looks good. They haven't had as many tournaments under their belt as the Bonnies, but when they have played very well. Adrian Pilkington has done a good job with this team, and I expect for them to really put it on the Bonnies and make them work to move on to that Sweet 16. And then, of course, we got South Carolina and Northeastern. John Roberts against Ed Turbity. This is a coin flip. The Liberty against the SCRC. The Gamecocks have been white hot all spring, winning the SEC championship over Tennessee and Clemson, two very good teams. So that's a great matchup. That's the Midwest. My pick to come out of this one is the defending champion, Kutztown Golden Bears. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Pat. That was some great info that you got there. Now let's open up the floor here to everybody. We'll start with Lance. I know he's got something to say right there. Lance, go ahead and you can venture out of the South now and maybe venture over to the West, to the East, to the Midwest, wherever you want to go, or you can just stay in the South and keep going that way because those are your people.
Well, I'm gonna venture to the Midwest just a drip. St. Bonnie. It's my team right there. That's one of my teams to do it. I'm just calling out now. Anybody got an issue, we can talk about it later. St. Bonnie, led by one of the best coaches in America. You know, I'm gonna toot the man's horn for him. No worries. He is one of the premier coaches, and he also coaches PR7s. But we'll move on from that. And I believe when they meet Kutztown in the final for the Midwest, we might just see fireworks. No 4th of July.
No fireworks, 4th of July?
We might just see fireworks. No 4th of July.
Some fireworks. All right, so Lance, yeah, that's good. Abby, what do you got?
So, hold on. I just wanted to clarify. What's your final matchup?
We there now? That's what we doing right now?
You want to get there?
We're chopping up. I don't know why wait.
I mean, my bracket buster. My bracket challenge gonna be out soon. I'll share it with you at the time.
Well, okay, you'll share it with me later. Got it. So you just got a quarterfinal matchup. That's all you're leaking to us. That's kind of low stakes, really. I'm not.
Yeah. I don't want people to copy my perfection. I would rather them just see it when it happens. You know.
Okay. All right. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I'm here for an Indiana Kutztown matchup to make it to a championship matchup. And I know it's cliche picking two number one seeds, but I think I gotta see it. I mean, I love Tui. Tui's my guy too. You know, I have all respect and nothing but love for him. But the experience, Kutztown, is it too much pressure? Can they back it up?
Indiana got to get past Tennessee first.
They got to get past Tennessee, but I'm with Abby here. I got Indiana Kutztown in that semifinal over there. But I think they're also on that side of the bracket, all over the place, actually. There's some interesting later on matchups with a little subtext, right? Dartmouth, Indiana, potentially. Dartmouth has found a way over the years, right? Like they could just, they smart coaching, good players, they find a way. Possibly Brown versus Queens. That's a replay of a very contentious 15s final last season. I called that game, and I can tell you there was no love lost between those two teams. Then you get a Kutztown versus a South Carolina or Northeastern, two kind of sleeper teams that are building great programs, bringing a lot of high school rugby players in there. So there's a lot of opportunity. Justin Hickey at Notre Dame is going to want to get his name in this. He's got some good players and good programs. There are good later round matchups coming here, in this whole tournament. I could go to the other side as well. But, as the people step through, and Abby talked about those nerves, getting on every game could be your last, I think there's going to be some exciting matchups here.
I got to tell you one team that I'm really excited to see play, and just after watching them at Nationals 2 years in a row, is this Adrian's team, right? Like you talked about them, John. You talked about two of the players that are just absolutely lights out. You look at one of their players, Siona Mamada. He's playing with the Utah Warriors now. I don't even think he's done with college. I think he was just that good. He got sucked up, and Brandon Sparks just snatched him right up and said, "No, you're coming. You're playing with me." Everything from his Instagram showing him out there. So that just shows you the kind of talent that they have. And the one thing that the Adrian guys really had in our post-match interviews is they're all really humble. Like, I mean, these are some really humble, really hard-working individuals that love the game, have been playing the game. It's in their blood. And, in defeat, these guys were just so gracious. They were just so good. And, I mean, that's something to where you see somebody lose, and this was not last year, but the year before last when they lost. You know, that just shows you that their response to how they're going to come together. And if 3 people are saying the same thing, that just means that program is on the right footing. It's a new program. And, I mean, nobody played exciting rugby like those guys. I believe it was Utuve, right? Correct me if I'm wrong with his name, please.
Patella Vatuve, yeah, fantastic.
Patella Vatuve. Like when he goes into contact, he is a small man, but he will light you up if you're 6'4", 260 pounds. It doesn't matter. This guy's form just boom will pop you in there, and I mean it's exciting. And they can throw the ball around, and they can step. I've got them. That's one of my teams to watch, Adrian. And then, of course, Wheeling, right? Like Wheeling, you know, you said it before. You know, like they're always at the top, but they never get over that hill. Is this the year that Mike Geibel can put this together? This is a team that he has been building for years. He didn't come out to win right away. He came out to win 2-3 years down the road. This is his team. They're coming in. They're starting to peak, you know, and they play great, exciting rugby with a lot of passion. And, I mean, it's just must-see TV. We're not on NBC, but it is must-see TV. You got to tune in. I'm really excited about that. What else are we missing here? I know we touched on Indiana. I mean, I don't think we have to go too crazy into Indiana because everyone knows they're good, right? And coached by Dave Fee. Dave Fee, Eagle, 7s, 15s. Cover of a rugby video game back in the day when none of us knew what rugby was, back like 2003 when Dave was running around there, right? So he obviously long-time
Some of
sevens
us
coach.
knew what it was.
Some of you knew what it was.
On the candy cane striped shorts that they pulled out in nowhere last year. I just hope we run those back because I was cheering for them last year to come through, but I think this might be their year.
Yeah, this year especially. Hey, Indiana, don't forget your jerseys. I'm letting the cat out of the bag. There was a little snafu last year. They almost showed up without their jerseys to play, and if the big man Mark Cuban's watching and they're showing up wearing another team's jersey, that's probably not going to help. But you know that's a great team. You know they very very well could be in the final. And I mean if they're in the final, they could win this. And you know, they're looking pretty dangerous, and they've got the pedigree to do it. So, last saved rounds. Anything else that we've got here that we may not have touched on the men's division that we've got to put out there for the world to know?
Watch out for Thomas More.
Yeah, you definitely have to watch out for Thomas More.
At number 5, they might give Wellington everything they hoping for. They might give them everything they wishing for. I'm just calling that now, which makes it easy road for Adrian. Just saying, I don't have a crystal ball in front of me. I just sometimes see the future. I'm just calling it out for y'all right now. That's all.
Calling it off a piece of paper from what I see, I'm looking at Indiana versus Wheeling in the finals. I know it's a boring 1-versus-1, but that means there's 30 teams that want to prove me wrong. So, you know, everybody watching, prove us wrong.
Just from that playing experience for this men's tournament, it's a 3-day tournament. That is just a game changer. When you wake up on day 2 and you're already sore from day 1, and then you win again, but you got to play on day 3, there is just nothing like it. You feel like you got hit by a bus, but you still have to play the most challenging level of rugby. You have to play your most competitive match, and you have to perform at the absolute highest level. So it's going to be hot. It's going to be taxing on all these players, and it's the team that can get up and get the energy up, because when it comes to finals, it's all about energy. It's fresh versus tired. You're going to play your 7 best do or die, and if they're not up for the task, then it might be the underdog.
All right, so I think we've covered the men from top to bottom. Now it's time to get into some of those bracket busters. I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but now we're going to put John and Brianna on the hot seat. We're going to hold them to it. If they're wrong, then, who cares, right? You know, it's 32 matches. It's tough, but they're definitely got some good insight. So right on the flip side of this break, we're coming back. More action, Selection Saturday, CRCs. We'll be right back.
In our game, we play with our hearts. We don't play with sticks, bats, or gloves. We don't wear shoulder pads or helmets. We keep playing when it hurts. And we leave everything on the field. What we wear must be built for our game.
All right, welcome back. The dust has settled. The tries have been scored. The tackles have been broken. Stiff arms have been given. The teams are set, and we are getting ready to go. But what we don't know right now is who is going to blow this bracket wide open. Who is that team that is just going to surprise everybody, and it's just going to say, oh, you know what? You thought you were going to win a championship. Guess what? No. You ain't winning no championship. Tough luck. We're the upsets. We're the underdogs. We're the ones that are going to get it done. And to give us her opinion, we're going to go back up to Harvard. We're going to bring in Brianna Kim. She's going to drop that knowledge on us and tell us who she thinks is going to be the teams to watch in the Bracket Busters and who you should put your money on.
All right, let's take a look at the men's side first. Now, for this one, I'm going to get probably a lot of hate for this, but let's look at number 1 Wheeling versus number 2 Adrian from the East. Now look, Wheeling's number 1. They have a lot of history to them. They're very well known. They've got some key players in Chief Chipfumbu, Simo Hadar, and Aaron Juma. These are all Americans and guys with blazing speed who know how to finish from all over the pitch. Now these guys, the last 2 CRCs, they haven't had enough depth to beat the better team. But this year, head coach Mike Geibel says that they've actually had a really hard time cutting down the roster. So they're coming in, they've been laser focused all year on one thing, winning the national championship. But look, number 2 Adrian in this division cannot be overlooked. This is a team that likes to play with flair, has a really big Polynesian presence. They like to have fun. They like to play exciting attacking rugby. And for me, it's going to be Adrian upsetting Wheeling to go into the semifinals. Now, on the women's side, I touched on this earlier in the Eastern preview. Virginia Tech has decided to focus on 7s this spring. This has historically not been the case. They usually play a combination of 15s and 7s, but I think that actually does wonders for them. They're facing off against possibly a Penn State team at number 2. I think that Virginia Tech has a good chance of upsetting Penn State. Look, they have stalwart head coach Kate Daly, and they've got several good players, but I think that Virginia Tech, with that focus and emphasis on 7s this season, is going to pull out and the upset. Now, another one that I wanted to mention here, look out on the West region here. Look out for Ember Larson from Michigan, the number 3 seed, to try to upset Navy, number 2, into the semifinals. Similarly to Virginia Tech, Michigan has shifted to 7s in the spring. That's a big change in their culture, but a positive one. They have played a number of different tournaments this season against some good teams. So I think with their experience in the adversity they've already faced, I think they have what it takes to pull off an upset. Back to y'all.
All right, as always, the consummate professional Brianna Kim. We see why she's calling games for Major League Rugby. She knows this sport inside and out. She knows college rugby. She knows professional rugby. She knows club rugby. She knows everything. Now back to John, the Marist man. John, right there, what do you have for us? Give us some of that inside knowledge. I mean, put that brain. He may not be a Harvard-educated man, but that is a smart brain right there. Drop it on us, John, and tell us who is going to be the upsets in the men's division.
First of all, we were just Harvard on the Hudson. It was a little bit different there, but Marist College, we had our Harvard on the Hudson thing going on. So I'll see what I can do to take this on. Sure, Bree talked a lot about the women's bracket and the men's bracket. There are some busters there. I talked about earlier. Iona could take Aquinas in that early round there. They've got some good experience at the CRC. Aquinas kind of new to this, and Michigan over Mount St. Mary's could be an early upset in the first round. But there are a lot of those big matchups coming we were talking about. I mean, Queen's got to play Air Force. Air Force in their day can take on anyone. They are a fantastic team. Kutztown has to take on Nazareth. They have some absolute speed at Nazareth. They're going through a coaching change right now, but they've got some really good players. But then when you start to get to those later round matchups, you're talking about Dartmouth versus Indiana. We said that, there's certainly a will to win there and a way to win there from that Dartmouth team. So they can move forward from there. Certainly Indiana's going to have to, certainly not take that one for granted in the early going there. And you have teams like Southern California taking on Notre Dame. Southern California plays in a great division down there. They play a lot of really good competition, in that Southern California area. So they're coming there with some experience. So there are some potential upsets, throughout the bracket as they keep going on. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. A lot of the 4 and 5 matchups are going to be great. They're well cast there because they're very close teams. Those upsets going to be a little harder to come by. I know Adrian, we talked about possibly upsetting there as they go through. Definitely an opportunity, but there are going to be upsets throughout this bracket. People can definitely bust these brackets. There are teams that want to go out there and show what they want to do, and they're going to do that. You're going to expect some upsets there. I think a lot of us are thinking on these number 1 seeds are very, very strong, but there are some upsets in the cards on the men's side there. So we'll see who comes with it on their day.
All right, John, the Harvard of the Hudson.
Harvard on the Hudson. It was Hudson
Harvard
River.
on the Hudson. Okay, that's
There you go.
That's a first for me. Anybody else that heard that?
You had to have gone to Marist to really understand
okay.
that. So go Red Foxes.
Go Red Foxes. All right. So we just talked about 48 teams, right? We had 16 women's teams, 32 men's teams, but there's 122 teams competing in this tournament. It's not just all about the Premier. We have 5 fields of nonstop rugby action going off all weekend, starting on Friday. Friday, the women's action is going to kick off at 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you tune in. That Prem bracket's going to get started, and all the other fields are going to get started as well, too. You'll be able to catch every single game live on YouTube. All 5 fields streaming for you to see it. 300 games total coming to you, brought by National Collegiate Rugby. Last year we only streamed the main field, and a lot of the feedback that we got back from the teams is that, hey, there's a lot of other rugby being played out here. What about us? What about the good rugby? What about we want to be seen? Last year, just realistically, logistically, it was hard in New Orleans because it was, the stadium was here, and then you had to walk all the way across the field to get to LaSalle where all the other games were being played. Great environment at LaSalle. But now, looking forward to this year at the Maryland Sportsplex, we're putting all the fields together. Everybody is playing. Basically, all these fields are touching each other. They're all going to be right there. You're going to have 300 matches of the best collegiate rugby sevens that you're going to see. Friday, Saturday, women's Prem. Women's Prem final kicks off at night. I believe it's a late start. Check the schedule. I'm not going to misquote here, but it's I will tell you that it will be a late night. The women do start early on Friday. The men will be playing 3 days throughout the tournament, so they'll be doing a 3-day tournament versus the women doing a 2-day tournament. Men are going to finish on Sunday, women will finish on Saturday, but like I said, there's a lot of other teams that will be playing in this tournament, and there's nobody better to give us insight on these divisions and what we should expect from it than our tournament director, Pat Clifton. Let's go ahead, let's bring Pat back in, get him in here, and to tell us about the rest of the field and the other teams that aren't these 48 Prem teams, but these other teams that matter just as much as all these teams playing in the stadium. Oh, and the other thing, every single final will be in the stadium. So if you want that full service experience, if you want Abby Gustitis, if you want John Broker, if you want Lance Kavanaugh calling your games, then you better win, get into the stadium, and I can promise you that they're going to be there. So again, without further ado, before I keep rambling on and ranting on, let's go ahead, let's bring in Pat Clifton to get the lowdown on D1, D2, small college, men's and women's.
Let's take a look at women's small college, where Endicott looms large as the 15th national champions. Second seed York is undefeated this spring with Sarah Alexander, the small college sevens all-star MVP leading the way. And Ohio Wesleyan, the Battling Bishops, what a name. There's your women's small college. Moving on to the men's small college, we have Christendom, last year's runners-up, looking to get over the hump and hoist that trophy this year, and they look good. Babson is another contender, led by Reed Santos. All everything. He can win the restarts, kick the conversions, break tackles, make tackles, all everything performer there for Babson. And then I got to keep my eyes on 2 teams coming out of the Midwest, Wayne State out of Nebraska and Central College coming out of Iowa. These 2 teams played each other in a qualifier a couple of weeks back. The only difference was an intercept try at the end, putting Wayne State over the hump. The Wildcats, one of the most talented teams across the country in small college, with players coming from all over the world. And then the Central College Dutch, essentially a wrestling team with a rugby problem. These guys are wrestlers in the winter. They play sevens in the spring. This is their 3rd CRC performance, and they get better and better every year. In Women's Division 2, I got my eyes on Eau Claire, the 15s national champs. Are they moving up to Division 1 next year? I don't know, but if they do it, they'd like to do it with the trophy in hand. Roger Williams is in Division 2 this year, won the Division 1 trophy at this tournament last year, and they want to go home with another one this year. So it's not going to be an easy battle for them. And of course, Wayne State on the women's side, also very good. The Wildcats, perennial national champions in small college. They've been bumped up to Division 2 this year, still a contender. In men's Division 2, it's all about IUP, Indiana University of Pennsylvania. The Red Hawks, defending champs. They have challenged themselves largely against Division 1 and Premier Cup competition this spring, but they are back in Division 2 and they look dominant in their conference qualifier last week. They've got a tough pool, though, with Georgetown. I'm expecting the Hoya paranoia to be in full effect as the Georgetown Hoyas are MARC champs, and they are a real contender here in their backyard in Maryland. And then the UNC Wilmington Seahawks. These guys are always a tough out. Southern Conference champs. They're not going to be easy. And Pool C also looks like it's up for grabs between the University of Northern Iowa coming out of the Great Midwest, Norwich, and Scranton. All very tough teams and tough outs. In Women's Division I, I got my eyes on Baylor making their CRC debut. The Bears, a very good team out of the Lone Star Conference there in Texas. And Wisconsin is back. The Badgers looking to rebound off a 12th place performance last year. And Men's Division I, I got my eyes on the Missouri Tigers and Jacob Reuter making their CRC debut. The University of San Diego making their CRC debut. The University of South Florida coming up for the very first time. We've got a lot of great teams in this one. Bowling Green. This is their first time in the CRC since 2010 when they won the bowl, the very first ever Collegiate Rugby Championship. This Division I club is stacked on the men's side. I couldn't pick who's going to win it, and I can't wait to see who's going to win it. So guys, keep your eyes peeled. Inside the stadium, outside the stadium, every match, every field streaming live on the Rugby Network right here on NCR's YouTube. Collegiate Rugby Championship, baby. We don't call it the big dance for no reason.
All right, Pat, thanks a lot again for that insight and what we got going on. Now let's go into the hard stuff. This is where you have to stake your name. We know Lance ain't got no problem putting his name out there and putting his opinion out there, but we're going to save him for last. Let's go ahead. Let's start over. Abby, who do you have playing in the final of the women's and then in the men's?
Women's, the tough one on that west side that I talked about, but I'm going to back the Michigan girls to make a final. I think Brown, it's going to be a tough competition, but Michigan just have a few standouts for me, and if they show up, it's a 2-day tournament, they're going to be fresh, they're going to bring it. But on that east side, Army, they're going to take it home. They are such a well-oiled machine. I watched them play earlier this year several times, watched them play in Tropical. They're up against some tough competition, but those girls can battle, and they show up time and time again, and the 2-day tournament won't even bat their eye at. So for me, it's Army over Michigan in the final. And then going to the men's, I know you think 1v1 is dull, but I got to back the Candy Canes, the Indiana team. They are who I'm rooting for, and I think a lot of people are, but I'll put them up against Wheeling. I'm not sold on the bracket buster over there. That team is absolutely stacked. But I think the experience of Indiana, the absolute fight, the missing out of last season will come back to haunt them. And I think they're here for it, and they'll show up big time.
I'll buy that. I'll buy that. John, you're gonna sell me something good here?
I'm going to just sell you something boring, as Abby would put it. I got a lot of 1v1s out here going on. So I agree with Army going in the women's bracket. I think they're outstanding. Now that I've heard that, Abby Gustitis spent a couple days coaching with them, I think there's a little extra added effort there. So that's definitely something that, for them. Well-oiled machine, as you said, good coaching, good program, just dedicated players. On the other side, I'm going to take Brown. I think they're just going to find a team way to get by Michigan. I think that's going to be very good for them. I think, they really want to make a statement. I think it's good. But, for a winner there, I'm going to have to take Army in the women's bracket. I have to agree there 100%. And as far as the men go, I don't agree with that upset either. Sorry, Lance, but I think Wheeland's going. I think Wheeland's going to make it. I think they went from 9th to 6th, and I think they were surprised. They left at 6th last year and feel like they have some unfinished business. Brought in a couple new players. Aaron Juma is unreal. Just keep an eye on him. And then Chief Shifumbu can beat 12 players on a sevens game. So, he's just something else to watch, along with every other player on the team. I think they're going to find a way to get there. As well as Indiana, that high-level experience, the pressure that those guys have played under, a couple of them on the circuit, is something that is going to translate down here in a real leadership role for that Indiana team. But just so I have something to argue with Abby about, I'm taking Wheeling.
All right, and last but not least, save the last word. We ain't there yet, Lance. We ain't there for the last words. So save some of it. But go ahead. Who you got in the finals, men's and women's?
Well, John, I'm going to agree with you almost. I have Brown going to the finals to play an Army team and to whoop on them. So I got Brown winning on the women's bracket. And Roz, we trust. I'm just saying it is what it is. You know what I mean? She's an exceptional coach, and I feel like she's going to put a team together and a strategy together to get them over. As far as the men go, I am not rooting for the Candy Canes. I actually see them falling a little early. Sue me. I have Adrian versus St. Bonnie in the final. 2 versus 2. What do you do? Well, Adrian's going to take it, obviously. But I will say that Indiana will make it to the final of the West and then drop. I'm calling that out now. Bracket buster and prediction all in one. Perfect sandwich, delicious. Boom.
Hey, anybody else? Hey, Lance, you picked up the boots. You've been training again, right? You've been
I'm back at
running
it.
around.
I'm back at it.
You're back at it,
I'm
right? So
I'm
anybody
back at
else find it kind of funny that all these Premier Sevens coaches, Lance is pumping up big time? You trying to get a spot on one of these teams or what?
I'm not back at it like that. I'm not, no. Maybe.
No.
Maybe.
So, all right. Well, hey, we know that this is going to be one of the best CRCs, if not the best CRC yet. I know venue-wise, this is going to be the best CRC in it's in at least the last 5 years since it's been back, right? Like, I mean, but this environment, this just the camaraderie, the team village, the atmosphere, the amenities, the beer gardens, multiple beer gardens will be going on here. The beer will be flowing, the food will be flowing, so make sure you drink responsibly and you eat responsibly. Well, no, don't eat responsibly. Buy all the food, eat all the food, do all that. But come out and, the Sevens event, I think, it's going to be awesome. And you can see every minute of it. I calculated how many hours that we're going to be working and streaming out of this trailer and out of Mike's trailer. And whoo, man, it's gonna be it's gonna be taxing. It's gonna be a lot, but I tell you, for the viewers at home, it's gonna be awesome. We have an all-star cast on the microphones. You're looking at 3 of them right here. Lance will be bopping around everywhere, talking to players, putting a mic in their face. No Flop Nick will be joining us as well too. We got Wendy Young, Darian Lovelace coming on, Tim Wilkes. We got in more. Brandon Solomon. So we got a lot of people coming on to provide the best possible production, the best view, the best tournament. And then I also got to give a shout out to all the NCR folks that have been working tirelessly over the last 4 to 5 months to put this on. I mean, we've done 3 or 4 site visits to go back there. Jeremy just drove down this past week, the president, to go do it. Everybody has been all hands on deck. The dedication from this team to really go in, and I mean, the 90% of these people are all doing it on their own dime and volunteering to provide the best collegiate rugby experience. And that's one of the best things that I love about this organization, is that this is truly about just providing a great experience for the kids. I can say kids now because we're all old, right? They're all kids to us now. We're no longer in college, but it's going to be great. And now with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to our man over there on the right-hand side of the screen, Mr. Lance Kavanaugh, Great American Rugby. Last word with Lance. What do you got?
Opportunity. A set of circumstances that allow something to happen. The circumstances are a single elimination tournament. You only have to be right 14 minutes at a time. You want to know how Allison Olsen feels playing for the USA? Dream Team 2016. You want to know how Madison Hughes feels playing for the USA? Dream Team a bunch of times. In front of you is a beautiful opportunity to show and prove who you are. It's get down or sit down. It's show up and blow up. The great philosopher Eminem once said, you only get one opportunity. Do not miss your chance to blow. So what would you do with it? Look around you to your team. Look around to your family. Look around to your school. And what would that opportunity mean for them, for you to hold up the CRC championship trophy? Now look inside yourself and ask yourself what you're willing to do to get it.
And on that, there's nothing left to be said. This is your 2023 Selection Saturday show. We'll see you on the pitch. Tune in. I'll see you Friday morning, bright and early. Let's go.